The woman's frozen fingers had stopped hurting an hour ago, and Nora Winters knew that was the worst sign of all as the blizzard howled around her like a living thing determined to claim her life. She had trusted them, every single one of them. Marcus had looked into her eyes that morning and promised they would all make it to Fort Hall together before the storm hit. Her cousin Sarah had squeezed her hand and sworn they were family, that family never abandoned each other. The wagon master had nodded grimly and said he would get every soul in the party to safety. Then the snow had started falling in thick, wet curtains across the Idaho plains, and everything had changed. The horses had panicked. The wagons had separated in the white chaos. Nora had climbed down to help free a wheel from a snowdrift, and when she had looked up, the wagons were moving again. She had called out, her voice swallowed by the wind. She had run after them, stumbling through snow that was already knee-deep. But they had kept going, the shapes of the wagons disappearing into the white void like ghosts fading into nothing. That had been hours ago. Nora did not know how many. Time had stopped meaning anything when her whole world became nothing but cold and white, and the terrible burning in her lungs with each breath. She had found shelter against a rocky outcropping, pressing herself into a shallow depression that offered some protection from the worst of the wind. Her thick wool coat was already crusted with ice. Her fingers would not bend anymore. She thought about her mother back in Missouri, about the last thing she had said before Nora left. "Do not trust Marcus. That man has shifty eyes." Nora had laughed it off. Marcus was going to be her husband. They were going to start a ranch together in Oregon. Sarah had vouched for him, and Sarah was blood, but blood had not mattered when survival was at stake. They had left her behind without a second thought, and now she was going to die alone in a blizzard in the middle of nowhere, her body probably not found until spring when the snow melted. If wolves did not get to her first. She closed her eyes. At least the cold was making her sleepy now. At least it would not hurt much longer. The wind screamed, and she thought she heard something else beneath it. Hoofbeats maybe, or just her dying mind playing tricks. She was too tired to open her eyes and check, too tired to care anymore. Then strong hands were on her shoulders, shaking her, and a deep voice was cutting through the storm. "Madam, madam, can you hear me? Stay with me now. Open your eyes." Nora's eyelids felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds, but she forced them open. A man's face swam into view, frost clinging to his dark beard, intense gray eyes boring into hers with an urgency that cut through her fog. He was young, maybe 25 or 26, with a strong jaw and wind-burned skin. A cowboy hat was pulled low over his brow and snow had gathered on his shoulders. "There you are," he said, his voice rough but steady. "I am going to get you out of here. Can you stand?" Nora tried to speak, but her lips would not form words. She managed to shake her head slightly. The man did not hesitate. He scooped her up into his arms like she weighed nothing, and Nora felt herself pressed against a warm chest, heard a steady heartbeat beneath her ear. The cold had taken so much from her that the simple presence of warmth and life was almost painful. "I have got you," the man said, turning into the wind. "My name is Isaac Norris. You are safe now." Safe. The word seemed impossible. Nora let her head rest against his shoulder as he carried her through the blizzard, each step purposeful despite the wind trying to push him back. She caught glimpses of a dark horse following beside them, reins trailing, the animal's head lowered against the storm. How long they walked, she did not know. The world faded in and out. Then there was sudden relief from the wind, the howling becoming muted, and she realized they were inside somewhere. "Got to get you warm," Isaac said, his voice echoing slightly. A cave, Nora thought dimly. He had brought her to a cave. She felt herself being lowered onto something softer than rock, blankets maybe, and then he was pulling off her frozen coat with careful hands. "This is going to hurt. I am sorry." He was right. As circulation started returning to her extremities, the pain was excruciating. Nora gasped, tears freezing on her cheeks, her whole body shaking. Isaac wrapped her in what felt like multiple blankets, thick and heavy, and then he was building up a fire from embers that must have already been burning. The flames grew, casting dancing shadows on rough stone walls. The cave was not large, but it was deep enough to keep the wind out, and there was a natural chimney in the rock that drew the smoke up and away. "Here." Isaac pressed a tin cup to her lips. "Drink slowly. It is just water, but it is warm." The liquid was barely above lukewarm, but to Nora, it felt like the most wonderful thing she had ever tasted. She managed a few sips before choking, and Isaac pulled the cup back, waiting patiently. His horse stood near the entrance, far enough in to be out of the worst weather, close enough to the outside that the animal did not spook from the enclosed space. The horse was a fine-looking bay with intelligent eyes and a calm demeanor despite the storm. "What is your name?" Isaac asked, settling beside her near the fire, his gray eyes studying her face with concern. "Nora," she managed, her voice coming out as a rasp. "Nora Winters, Miss Winters," he nodded. "Can you tell me what happened? Why were you out there alone?" The memory came flooding back, and with it a surge of anger that cut through her exhaustion. "They left me," she said, her voice shaking. "My wagon party. We were trying to make Fort Hall before the storm hit. I got down to help with a wheel and they just kept going. They left me behind." Isaac's jaw tightened, a muscle jumping near his temple. "Who was leading your party?" "A man named Marcus Gentry. He was the wagon master. My cousin Sarah was with him." Nora's throat tightened. "I was going to marry Marcus. We were going to Oregon together." "Jesus," Isaac muttered, shaking his head. He fed another piece of wood into the fire, the flames crackling higher. "How many people?" 15 souls. 5 wagons." Nora closed her eyes. "They would not leave me on purpose. They must have thought I was in another wagon. When they realize I am missing, they will come back." She wanted to believe that, needed to believe it, but even as she said the words, doubt gnawed at her. Marcus had been acting strange the last few days, distant, irritable. Sarah had avoided meeting her eyes that morning. And the way the wagons had kept moving even as Nora had called out, even as she had run after them through the snow. Her voice surely loud enough for someone to hear. Isaac did not say anything, but the look on his face suggested he had his own doubts about whether anyone would come back. Instead, he handed her the cup again. "Drink more. You need to warm up from the inside." Nora took the cup with shaking hands, managed a few more sips. The cave was warming up now, the fire pushing back the terrible cold. She could feel her toes again, though they hurt something fierce. Her fingers were starting to bend. She was alive, and that was more than she had expected half an hour ago. "What were you doing out there?" she asked. "In a blizzard like this." "Looking for shelter myself," Isaac said. "I was heading back to Shoshone City from Fort Hall when the storm hit. I know this country pretty well, knew there were caves in these rocks. I was bringing my horse in when I thought I heard something over the wind, decided to take a look before settling in." He met her eyes. "Lucky I did." "Lucky," Nora repeated. The word seemed inadequate. This man had saved her life. "Thank you. I would be dead if you had not found me." "You would have been dead in another hour," Isaac said bluntly. "Maybe less. You were already hypothermic." He stood up, moved to his saddlebags near the horse and pulled out some strips of dried meat. "You need to eat something. Keep your strength up." Nora accepted the jerky, forcing herself to chew even though her jaw hurt. The salt and protein tasted good after hours of nothing. She watched Isaac as he moved around the cave, checking his supplies, making sure his horse had water from a small collapsible bucket. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who had spent years on the frontier, someone who knew how to survive. His clothes were practical, sturdy denim pants and a heavy leather coat, a gun belt around his waist. A rifle was propped near his saddle. He was handsome in a rough-hewn way, all hard edges and lean muscle, but there was kindness in his eyes when he looked at her. "How far are we from Shoshone City?" Nora asked. "About 15 miles northeast." Isaac settled back down by the fire, stretching out his long legs. "Fort Hall is about 20 miles south. Your wagon party was heading the wrong direction if they were trying for the fort." Nora's stomach dropped. "What?" I said your people were going the wrong way. "Shoshone City is northeast of here, Fort Hall is south. If you were coming from the west and heading to Fort Hall, you should have been angling more southward." Isaac's eyes narrowed. "Where exactly were you all camped last night?" "Near a creek. I do not remember the name. There were cottonwoods." Nora's mind raced. "Marcus said we were taking a shortcut, that he knew a better route that would save us 2 days." Isaac was quiet for a moment, his expression dark. "Miss Winters, there is no shortcut from west of here to Fort Hall that goes northeast. Your wagon master was either incompetent or lying." The words hit Nora like a physical blow. But why would he lie? We were all trying to get to Oregon. We were going to be married. "Were you bringing anything valuable with you?" "Money. Inheritance." Nora's mouth went dry. Her father had died 6 months ago, leaving her $3,000 from the sale of his store in Missouri. It was a fortune, enough to buy land and cattle and build a real life. She had told Marcus about it, had trusted him with that information because she had thought they were partners. "Yes," she whispered. $3,000 in a bank draft. It was in my personal belongings in the second wagon." Isaac's expression hardened. "Where Sarah and Marcus were?" "Yes." The pieces were clicking into place now, each one worse than the last. "Oh God, they planned this. They planned to leave me behind." "Sounds that way." Isaac's voice was gentle despite the harsh truth. "I am sorry, Miss Winters, but you need to face facts. The man you were going to marry likely never intended to marry you at all. He just wanted your money." Nora felt tears burning her eyes, but she blinked them back furiously. She would not cry, would not give Marcus or Sarah the satisfaction, even if they were not here to see it. "My cousin was in on it too, my own blood." "Some people do terrible things for money," Isaac said quietly. "I have seen it before. The frontier brings out the best in some folks and the worst in others." He leaned forward. "But you are alive, and that means you have a chance to make sure they do not get away with it. Once this storm clears, we will get you to Shoshone City. You can wire ahead to Fort Hall, maybe even catch them before they disappear with your money." "If they even go to Fort Hall," Nora said bitterly. "They could be heading anywhere now, true. But we will figure it out." Isaac's gray eyes were steady, determined. "I give you my word, Miss Winters. I will help you get your money back and see those people face justice." It was the second promise a man had made her in as many days, but this one felt different. Isaac Norris was a stranger who had risked his life to save hers in a blizzard. He had nothing to gain from helping her. And yet here he sat, offering his assistance like it was the most natural thing in the world. Nora felt something shift in her chest, a small crack in the wall of betrayal and hurt that had built up over the last few hours. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you help me? You do not know me." Isaac was quiet for a moment, firelight playing across his face. "Because it is the right thing to do," he said simply. "And because nobody should have to go through what you just did. Being left to die by people you trusted." He paused. "I know something about betrayal myself. About learning that the people you counted on were not who you thought they were. There was pain in his voice, old and deep, and Nora found herself wanting to know the story behind it. But she was too exhausted to ask, and Isaac did not elaborate. Instead, he handed her another blanket. "You should try to rest. The storm is not going to let up any time soon, probably not until tomorrow morning. We are stuck here until it does." Nora nodded, wrapping the blanket around herself. The warmth was almost overwhelming after so much cold, and her body was screaming for sleep. But her mind kept turning over everything that had happened. Marcus's face that morning, the way he had avoided looking at her directly. Sarah's nervous laughter when Nora had asked if everything was all right. The wagon master's insistence on the shortcut that apparently led nowhere useful. All of it had been a lie. All of it had been designed to get her out here, alone and vulnerable, so they could take everything she had and leave her to die. But they had not counted on Isaac Norris. Had not counted on a cowboy with gray eyes and a good heart riding through a blizzard and hearing her even when the wind tried to swallow all sound. Nora glanced at Isaac, who was settling back against the cave wall, his hat pulled low over his eyes. His hand rested casually near his gun, though, and she realized he was not fully relaxed. He was keeping watch, making sure she was safe even now. Something warm bloomed in her chest, something that had nothing to do with the fire. Trust, maybe, or at least the beginning of it. Isaac Norris had given her no reason to doubt him, and everything he had done so far suggested he was exactly what he appeared to be, a decent man trying to do the right thing. After what Marcus had done, that alone felt like a miracle. "Isaac," she said quietly. "Yeah." He did not open his eyes, but she could tell he was listening. "Thank you for everything. You already said that, I know. But I mean it. You saved my life, and I will not forget that." Isaac tilted his hat back enough to look at her, a faint smile touching his lips. "Just do not go wandering off into any more blizzards, all right? My heart cannot take the strain." Despite everything, Nora found herself smiling back. "I will do my best. Good enough for me." Isaac settled his hat back down. "Now get some sleep, Miss Winters. Tomorrow is going to be a long day." Nora closed her eyes, listening to the wind howl outside the cave, the fire crackling, Isaac's steady breathing. For the first time since the wagon had left her behind, she felt safe. She drifted off thinking that maybe being left in the blizzard had been the worst and best thing that could have happened to her. Worst because of the betrayal. Best because it had led her to Isaac Norris, and something told her that meeting him was going to change her life in ways she could not yet imagine. The storm raged through the night, but inside the cave, Nora slept deeply for the first time in weeks, wrapped in borrowed blankets and the warmth of a stranger's unexpected kindness. When Nora woke, pale light was filtering through the cave entrance, and the howling wind had finally stopped. Her whole body ached, muscles stiff from cold and exhaustion, but she was warm and alive. The fire had burned down to coals, and Isaac was already up, crouched near the entrance of the cave looking out at the transformed landscape. "Morning," he said without turning around. "Storm passed about an hour ago, left us with about 2 feet of fresh snow, but the sky is clear now." Nora sat up slowly, wincing at the protest from her muscles. "Can we travel?" "We can, but it will be slow going. My horse can carry us both, but not quickly in this snow." Isaac turned to look at her, his expression serious. "Are you well enough to ride? I need you to be honest. Hypothermia can have lingering effects." Nora took stock of herself. Her fingers and toes were sore but functional. She was exhausted but not dangerously so. Most importantly, her mind felt clear, the foggy confusion from last night completely gone. "I can ride," she said firmly. Isaac nodded. "All right then. We will take it easy, stop if you need to rest." Shoshone City is the closest settlement, so that is where we are headed. You can get a hot meal, proper rest, and send those wires from there." He handed her some more dried meat and a canteen of water, and Nora ate mechanically while Isaac packed up his camp with practiced efficiency. She realized she was still wearing all her clothes from yesterday, though Isaac had removed her wet coat. Her dress was wrinkled and stained, her hair had come loose from its pins, and she probably looked like she had been dragged through hell backward. Which, she supposed, was not far from the truth here. Isaac held out her coat, now dry from hanging near the fire all night. "It is still cold out there, even with the sun." Nora took it gratefully, pulling it on and buttoning it up. Isaac gave her his spare pair of gloves, thick leather that was too large for her hands but infinitely better than nothing. Then he led his horse out of the cave, the bay snorting and tossing its head at the deep snow, but moving obediently. The landscape outside was stunning and terrible at once, everything buried under a thick white blanket, the sky a brilliant blue above. The sun glinted off the snow so brightly it hurt to look at. Up you go. Isaac laced his fingers together to give Nora a leg up, and she grabbed the saddle horn and hauled herself onto the horse's back. A moment later, Isaac swung up behind her, his arms coming around her to take the reins. Comfortable. Nora was acutely aware of his closeness, the solid warmth of his chest against her back, the strength in the arms bracketing her. It should have felt strange, being this close to a man she barely knew. Instead, it felt safe. "Yes," she said quietly. "Good, let's go." Isaac clicked his tongue, and the horse started forward, breaking trail through the snow with patient determination. They rode in silence for a while, the only sounds the crunch of snow under hooves and the occasional call of a bird. The cold bit at Nora's cheeks despite the coat, but it was nothing like the deadly cold of last night. This was manageable, survivable. She found herself relaxing slightly, leaning back against Isaac's solid presence. "Tell me about Shoshone City," she said eventually, needing to break the silence. "What is it like?" "Small but growing," Isaac said. "Maybe 300 people. Started as a mining camp back in 1863, but when the gold played out, folks stayed and turned it into a proper town. There is a hotel, a general store, a saloon, a church. The railroad is talking about running a spur line through, which would change things considerably." "Is that where you live?" "I have a ranch about 5 miles outside town. Small operation, just me and about 200 head of cattle. I run some horses too, sell them to the army and to settlers passing through." Isaac's voice held a note of pride. "It is not much yet, but it is mine. Built it from nothing over the last 4 years." "That is impressive," Nora said, meaning it. "Starting from nothing and making something of yourself out here." "Everyone starts from nothing out here," Isaac said. "That is the beauty of the frontier. It does not matter who you were or where you came from. All that matters is what you are willing to work for." He paused. "What were you planning to do in Oregon? After you and Marcus were married, I mean." The question stung, but Nora forced herself to answer. "Buy land, start a ranch. I was thinking cattle or maybe sheep. I know wool prices have been good the last few years." She laughed bitterly. "I had it all planned out, even sketched what I wanted the house to look like." "Those are good plans," Isaac said quietly. "Solid plans. No reason you cannot still do them, just without Marcus. Except Marcus has my $3,000. Maybe, maybe not. We will see." Isaac shifted slightly in the saddle. "But say you did get the money back. Would you still head to Oregon? Or would you consider settling somewhere else?" There was something in his voice, a careful neutrality that made Nora wonder what he was really asking. "I had not thought about it," she admitted. "Oregon was always the goal because that was where Marcus wanted to go. But honestly, I do not care much about Oregon specifically. I just want land and a future and a place to build something that matters." "Idaho has good land," Isaac said. "Good grazing, decent water, room to grow. And the territory is pushing for statehood, which would bring more stability, more investment. A person could do worse than settling here. Are you trying to recruit me to Idaho, Mr. Norris?" Nora asked, a hint of amusement creeping into her voice despite everything. "Just presenting options, Miss Winters." But she could hear the smile in his voice. "Idaho could use more people who are willing to work hard and build something real. And from what I have seen, you have got grit. Anyone who survives being left in a blizzard has got what it takes to make it out here." The compliment warmed Nora more than it probably should have. "Well, I suppose I will have to see what happens. First step is getting my money back and seeing justice done." "First step is getting you to town and making sure you are all right," Isaac corrected gently. "The money and justice can come after." They rode on through the morning, the sun climbing higher and starting to melt the top layer of snow. The going was slow, but Isaac's horse was sure-footed and patient, never once stumbling despite the difficult terrain. Nora found herself nodding off once or twice, exhaustion still pulling at her, and each time Isaac's arm would tighten slightly around her waist, steadying her, his voice rumbling softly to wake her. "Stay awake, Miss Winters. Just a little farther." It was early afternoon when they finally saw Shoshone City in the distance, a collection of wooden buildings clustered along a partly frozen creek. Smoke rose from several chimneys, and Nora could see people moving about even from here. Civilization. Safety. She felt her shoulders sag with relief. "Almost there," Isaac said. "I am going to take you straight to the hotel. The owner, Mrs. Patterson, is a good woman. She will get you settled, get you cleaned up and fed. Then we will go talk to the sheriff." "You do not have to do all that," Nora protested weakly. "You have already done so much." "I am seeing this through," Isaac said firmly. "I told you I would help and I meant it." Nora did not argue further. The truth was, she needed his help. She was in a strange town with no money, no possessions beyond the clothes on her back, and a story that probably sounded insane. Having Isaac vouch for her would make all the difference in the world. They rode into Shoshone City down the main street, and Nora was aware of curious eyes tracking them. A woman alone with a man, both looking like they had been through hell, was bound to attract attention. Isaac ignored the stares, guiding his horse to a 2-story wooden building with a sign that read Patterson's Hotel in faded letters. He dismounted first, then helped Nora down, his hands steady on her waist. "Can you stand?" he asked quietly. Nora's legs trembled, but they held. "Yes." "Good." Isaac tied his horse to the hitching post, then guided Nora up the steps and through the front door. The interior of the hotel was warm and smelled like wood smoke and coffee. A woman in her 50s looked up from behind the desk, her eyes widening as she took in their appearance. "Isaac Norris, what in God's name happened to you?" "Long story, Margaret." Isaac moved to the desk, his hand still on Nora's elbow, steadying her. "This is Miss Nora Winters. She got caught in the blizzard last night after her wagon party left her behind. She needs a room, hot water for a bath, some food and clothes if you have any that might fit." Margaret's expression shifted from surprise to outrage. "Left behind? In that storm?" She came around the desk, her motherly instincts clearly kicking in as she took Nora's hands in hers. "You poor dear. Of course we will get you sorted out. Come on, let's get you upstairs." "I do not have money to pay," Nora said, her voice cracking slightly. "Everything I had was in the wagons." "We will sort out payment later," Margaret said firmly. "Right now you need care. Isaac, you go get Sheriff Coleman and fill him in. I will take care of Miss Winters." Isaac hesitated, his gray eyes searching Nora's face. "Will you be all right?" Nora nodded, though part of her wanted to ask him to stay, but that was foolish. Margaret was right, and Isaac needed to talk to the sheriff. "I will be fine. Thank you, Isaac, for everything." "I will be back in a bit," he promised. Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a soft thud. Margaret clucked her tongue and led Nora upstairs to a small but clean room with a bed, a washstand, and a window overlooking the street. "You sit tight, dear. I will have hot water brought up and find you something to wear. Then you can tell me the whole story." Over the next hour, Nora found herself being taken care of in a way that made her throat tight with gratitude. Margaret brought up a tin tub and filled it with hot water, provided soap and towels, and even produced a simple but clean dress that was only slightly too large. Nora sank into the bath and scrubbed away the grime and fear of the last day, letting the hot water soothe her aching muscles. When she finally emerged, dressed in the borrowed clothes with her hair brushed and braided, she felt almost human again. Margaret brought up a tray with beef stew, fresh bread, and coffee, and Nora ate ravenously while she told the older woman everything that had happened. Margaret listened with a mixture of sympathy and anger, shaking her head at the betrayal. "That is the wickedest thing I have heard in a long time," Margaret said when Nora finished. "To leave someone to die like that, especially someone you claim to love. I hope the sheriff catches them and throws them in jail for the rest of their miserable lives." "I just want my money back," Nora said tiredly. "The money my father left me. It was supposed to be my future." "And it still will be," Margaret said firmly. "You have got Isaac on your side now, and that man is as stubborn as they come. If anyone can track down your wagon party and get your money back, it is him." "Why is he helping me?" Nora asked. "I am a stranger. He does not owe me anything." Margaret smiled softly. "That is just who Isaac is. He has a strong sense of right and wrong, and he cannot stand by when he sees an injustice. It got him in trouble in his younger days, but out here it makes him one of the good ones." She paused. "He has not had an easy life, you know. Lost his parents when he was 15, spent years working other people's ranches before he saved enough to buy his own land. He knows what it is like to have to fight for everything you have." Nora absorbed that information, feeling like she understood Isaac a little better. No wonder he had been so determined to help her. He knew what it was like to be alone and struggling. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts, and Margaret opened it to reveal Isaac and another man, older with a silver star pinned to his vest. "The sheriff," Nora assumed. "Miss Winters," Isaac said, stepping into the room. "This is Sheriff Coleman. He wants to hear your story." Nora took a deep breath and told it all again from the beginning. The sheriff listened carefully, taking notes in a small book. When she finished, he rubbed his jaw thoughtfully. "That is a serious accusation," he said. "Theft, attempted murder, fraud. If what you are saying is true, these people are looking at significant prison time." "It is true," Nora said firmly. "I know how it sounds, but I am not lying." "I believe you," Sheriff Coleman said. "And Isaac vouches for you, which carries weight. The problem is jurisdiction. If they made it to Fort Hall, they are out of my territory. I can wire ahead, ask the authorities there to detain them, but it will be their investigation, not mine." "How long will that take?" Isaac asked. "Wire should get there by tomorrow. If your people are still at Fort Hall, they could be detained within a day or two. If they already moved on, it gets more complicated." The sheriff looked at Nora. "Do you have any proof that the money was yours? Any documentation?" Nora's heart sank. "The bank draft was in my name, but Marcus had access to my belongings. He could have forged my signature, claimed I gave him permission to cash it." "That is a problem," the sheriff admitted, "but not insurmountable. We will send the wire, see what shakes out." In the meantime, Miss Winters, you should stay here in Shoshone City where it is safe. Once we locate your party, you may need to travel to wherever they are to make a formal identification and statement. She will stay at the hotel, Isaac said. I will cover her expenses until this is sorted out. Nora started to protest, but Isaac shot her a look that brooked no argument. We will settle up later, he said. Right now, what matters is making sure you are safe and cared for. Sheriff Coleman nodded approvingly. I will send that wire right now. I will let you know as soon as I hear anything back. He tipped his hat to Nora. Try to rest, Miss Winters. You have been through an ordeal. After the sheriff left, Isaac lingered in the doorway. Margaret excused herself, claiming she needed to check on something in the kitchen, leaving them alone. Nora stood awkwardly, very aware of how much she owed this man. You keep doing things for me, she said quietly. Saving my life, bringing me here, paying for my room. I do not know how I can ever repay you. I do not want repayment, Isaac said. I want to see things made right, that is all. He shifted, looking almost uncomfortable. But I do want to know that you are going to be all right. Will you be all right here tonight? Do you need anything? I have everything I need, thanks to you and Margaret. Nora took a step closer. But I would like to see you again, to know what the sheriff finds out. I will be back tomorrow, Isaac promised. I need to get home and check on my ranch, but I will ride back in the morning. We will figure out the next steps together. The word made Nora feel less alone than she had in months. Thank you, Isaac, I mean it. You have given me hope when I had none. Isaac's expression softened. You are stronger than you think, Nora Winters. You survived something that would have killed most people. Do not forget that. He settled his hat on his head. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start getting your life back. Then he was gone, his boots echoing on the stairs. Nora moved to the window and watched him mount his horse and ride out of town, heading northwest toward what she assumed was his ranch. She stayed at the window long after he disappeared from view, thinking about gray eyes and steady hands and the way his voice had sounded when he promised to help her. Margaret brought up more food at dinner, and Nora ate and then slept, truly slept, for the first time in what felt like forever. Her dreams were a confused jumble of snow and wagons, and a man with a kind face pulling her out of the cold, but she woke feeling more rested than she had in weeks. The morning sun was streaming through the window, and for a moment she did not know where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The blizzard, the betrayal. Isaac. Nora dressed quickly in the borrowed clothes and went downstairs to find Margaret serving breakfast to a few other guests. The older woman smiled when she saw Nora and brought her a plate of eggs and bacon and more coffee. Sleep well? Margaret asked. Better than I have in a long time, Nora admitted. She ate slowly, savoring the hot food, and was just finishing when the door opened and Isaac walked in, looking freshly shaved and wearing a clean shirt. His eyes found Nora immediately, and a small smile touched his lips. Morning, he said, moving to her table. Sheriff got a response to his wire. Nora's heart jumped. Already, telegraph moves fast. Isaac sat down across from her, his expression serious. The authorities at Fort Hall detained your wagon party yesterday evening. They had just arrived and were setting up camp. All 15 people, including Marcus Gentry and Sarah Winters. Relief flooded through Nora so intensely she felt dizzy. They caught them. They actually caught them. They did, but there is a complication. Isaac leaned forward. Marcus is claiming you died in the blizzard. He says you fell out of the wagon during the storm and they could not find you, that they assumed you froze to death. He already cashed your bank draft, said you had given him power of attorney before you died. Nora's hands clenched into fists. That is a lie. I never gave him power of attorney. I never even discussed it. I know. But to prove that, You are going to have to go to Fort Hall and confront him in person. The authorities there need to see that you are alive and hear your testimony directly." Isaac's gray eyes were steady on hers. "It is 20 miles and the weather is still unpredictable, but I will take you if you want to go. We can leave today, be there by tomorrow." Nora did not hesitate. "I want to go. I want to look Marcus in the eye and watch him realize his plan failed." Isaac nodded, a hint of approval in his expression. "Then we leave in an hour. I brought an extra horse for you, a gentle mare. Margaret, can you pack some provisions for 2 people for a couple of days?" "Already on it," Margaret said, bustling toward the kitchen. An hour later, Nora found herself mounted on a sweet-faced chestnut mare. Dressed in warmer clothes Margaret had scrounged up from somewhere, riding out of Shoshone City with Isaac beside her on his bay. The sun was shining, the snow was melting, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Nora felt like she had some control over her fate. They rode south, following a trail that wound through rolling hills and stands of pine trees. Isaac kept the pace moderate, mindful of Nora's lack of recent riding experience, but she found herself adapting quickly. The mare was smooth, gaited, and responsive, and being in the saddle felt good, felt right. "You ride well," Isaac commented after a few hours. "Natural seat." "My father taught me when I was young," Nora said. "We had horses on our property in Missouri. I have not ridden much in the last few years, but I guess you do not forget." "It is like swimming that way," Isaac agreed. "Gets into your bones." They stopped at midday to rest the horses and eat some of the food Margaret had packed. They were in a small clearing beside a mostly frozen creek, the sun surprisingly warm despite the lingering snow. Nora sat on a fallen log and watched Isaac move about, caring for the horses with the same steady competence he did everything. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Isaac glanced at her. "Sure." "Margaret said you lost your parents when you were young. What happened, if you do not mind talking about it?" Isaac was quiet for a moment, his hand stilling on his horse's bridle. "Cholera," he said finally. "Swept through our town when I was 15. Killed a third of the population in 2 weeks, including both my folks. I did not have any other family, so I struck out on my own. Worked ranches all over the West, saved every penny I could. When I was 21, I had enough to buy a small piece of land near Shoshone City. Been building it up ever since." "That must have been hard," Nora said softly. "Being alone so young." "It was. But it taught me to rely on myself, to not count on anyone else to save me." Isaac met her eyes. "Though I learned later that is not quite right either. Sometimes you need help and there is no shame in accepting it. I wish someone had told me that earlier." "Is that why you help people?" Nora asked. "Because you wish someone had helped you?" Isaac considered that. "Maybe, or maybe I just do not like seeing people suffer when I can do something about it." He smiled slightly. "My mother used to say I had a white knight complex. Always wanting to ride in and save the day." "I do not think that is a bad thing," Nora said. "The world needs more people who are willing to help, not fewer." "Maybe," Isaac resumed, checking his gear, "but it can get you in trouble. I have gotten into more than a few fights over the years because I could not keep my nose out of other people's business." "Fighting for what is right is not keeping your nose in other people's business," Nora countered. "It is being decent." Isaac looked at her, something warm flickering in his gray eyes. "You are going to fit in just fine out here, Nora Winters. The frontier needs people with backbones." They rode on through the afternoon, the landscape gradually changing as they moved south. The hills became more pronounced, the trees thicker. Isaac pointed out landmarks as they went, teaching Nora the geography of the area. She soaked it all in, fascinated despite herself. Idaho was beautiful, wild and untamed, full of possibility. As the sun started to sink toward the horizon, Isaac guided them to another cave, smaller than the first but still offering shelter. "We will camp here tonight," he said. "Fort Hall is only about 5 miles from here, but I do not want to arrive after dark. Better to go in the morning when we are fresh." They set up camp efficiently, Isaac building a fire while Nora unpacked the food. They ate in companionable silence, and afterward, Nora found herself studying Isaac across the flames. He was handsome. She had noticed that from the first, but it was more than that. There was a solidity to him, a sense that he was exactly who he appeared to be with no hidden agendas or secret motives. After Marcus's deception, that honesty was incredibly attractive. "What are you thinking about?" Isaac asked, catching her staring. Nora felt her cheeks heat but decided to be honest. "I was thinking that you are a good man, Isaac Norris, and that I am grateful fate put you in my path." Isaac's expression softened. "I am grateful too. I know that is a strange thing to say given the circumstances, but meeting you has reminded me why I love this land and these people, why I chose to build a life here." "Tell me about your ranch," Nora said, wanting to know more about him. "What is it like?" Isaac's face lit up in a way she had not seen before. "It is not fancy, but it is mine. I have got a small cabin, a barn, good grazing land with a creek running through it. The cattle are healthy, and I have started breeding horses on the side. I am hoping to expand in the next few years, maybe hire some help, build a bigger house." He paused. "I have always imagined it as a place where a family could grow, somewhere stable and safe." "It sounds wonderful," Nora said sincerely. "You should be proud of what you have built." "I am," Isaac said quietly. "But it can be lonely sometimes. Building something by yourself, I mean. It would be nice to have someone to share it with." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Nora's heart beat faster. Was Isaac suggesting what she thought he was suggesting? They barely knew each other. It had only been 2 days since he had pulled her from the blizzard, and yet she could not deny the connection she felt, the pull toward this man who had shown her more kindness in 2 days than Marcus had in 6 months. "Isaac," she started, but he held up a hand. "I am sorry, that was too forward. You have just been through a trauma, and here I am saying things that probably sound crazy." He looked away, jaw tight. "Forget I said anything." "No," Nora said firmly. "Do not take it back. I am glad you said it, because I have been feeling the same thing and thinking I was losing my mind." She took a breath. "I know it is fast. I know it does not make logical sense. But I feel safe with you in a way I never felt with Marcus, even when I thought I loved him. And I keep thinking about what you said yesterday, about how the frontier is a place where you can start over, where your past does not matter. Maybe that applies to us too. Maybe we do not have to follow normal rules about how long you are supposed to know someone before you feel something real." Isaac's gray eyes were intense on hers. "Are you saying what I think you are saying?" "I am saying I would like to see where this goes," Nora said, her heart pounding. "After we deal with Marcus and get my money back, I would like to get to know you better. To see if what I am feeling is real or just gratitude mixed up with trauma." "And if it is real," Isaac asked quietly, "then maybe Idaho is where I am meant to be after all." Nora smiled. "Maybe being left in that blizzard was the universe pushing me toward the life I was actually supposed to have." Isaac stood up and came around the fire, sitting beside her on the log. He did not touch her, but his presence was warm and solid. "I would like that," he said. "I would like that a lot. But Nora, I need you to know I am not going to rush you. We will take this as slow as you need. You have been through hell, and the last thing you need is another man trying to push you into something you are not ready for." "I know," Nora said, "and I appreciate that. But Isaac, I am not fragile. I am angry and hurt, but I am not broken, and I know my own mind. I know what I want." What do you want? Isaac's voice was low, careful. Nora turned to look at him, at the firelight dancing across his features, at the genuine care in his eyes. I want a chance at something real. I want honesty and partnership and someone who sees me as an equal, not as a means to an end. I want to build something that matters, whether that is a ranch or a family or just a life that I can be proud of. She paused. And I want to see if you might want those things too with me. Isaac was quiet for a long moment, and Nora's heart sank, thinking maybe she had misread everything. But then he reached out and took her hand, his calloused fingers warm against hers. I want all of those things, he said. I have wanted them for a long time, I just never met anyone I wanted to build them with. Until now. Nora felt tears prick her eyes, but they were good tears this time. Tears of relief and hope and possibility. So we will see where this goes. We will see where this goes, Isaac agreed. He squeezed her hand gently. But first, we get your money back and make sure Marcus and his people face justice. Then we can think about the future. Deal, Nora said. They sat together by the fire for a long time, hands linked, not saying much but not needing to. The connection between them was palpable, growing stronger with each passing moment. Eventually, exhaustion pulled at Nora again, and Isaac insisted she take the blankets and get some sleep. She did not argue, too tired to protest, and drifted off thinking that 2 days ago she had been ready to die in the snow. Now she was thinking about futures and ranches, and a man with gray eyes who had given her back her life. Morning came cold but clear, and they were on the trail early. Fort Hall appeared on the horizon by mid-morning, a sturdy military outpost with high walls and a flagpole flying the American flag. Isaac led them through the main gate, and they were immediately met by a soldier who directed them to the commander's office. Commander Billings was a no-nonsense man in his 50s with sharp eyes and a curt manner. But when Isaac explained who Nora was and why they were there, his expression shifted to something almost apologetic. "Miss Winters," he said, standing to shake her hand, "I am very glad to see you alive. Your companions have been most insistent that you perished in the blizzard." "I did not," Nora said firmly. "I was deliberately left behind by Marcus Gentry and my cousin Sarah Winters. They took my bank draft and intended to let me die so they could claim my inheritance." "That is a serious charge," Billings said. "But I believe you. We have been holding your party here under suspicion of fraud and theft pending your arrival. Would you be willing to make a formal statement and confront Mr. Gentry?" "Absolutely," Nora said. Billings nodded. "Very well. I will have him brought to my office. Fair warning, Miss Winters, he is not going to go quietly." He was right. When Marcus was brought in, his face went through a series of expressions ranging from shock to fear to anger. He was a handsome man, tall with dark hair and blue eyes, the kind of looks that had made Nora think she was lucky to have caught his attention. Now she just saw a liar and a thief. "Nora," he said, attempting a smile, "thank God you are alive. We thought you were dead. We searched for you, but the storm was too bad. We had to move on to save everyone else." "That is a lie," Nora said coldly. "You knew exactly where I was. I was right behind the wagons calling out for you to stop, but you kept going because leaving me behind was always the plan." Marcus's smile faltered. "That is insane. Why would I do that? For my money," Nora said. $3,000 that you somehow managed to cash a draft for even though I never gave you permission. How did you manage that, Marcus? Did you forge my signature? Or did Sarah do it for you?" "I do not know what you are talking about," Marcus blustered. "That money was ours. We were going to be married. You said I could handle our finances." "Produce the marriage license then," Billings said sharply, "or any documentation that Miss Winters gave you power of attorney." Marcus's face flushed. We had not made it official yet, but we had an understanding. An understanding is not a legal document, Billings said. He turned to Nora. Miss Winters, do you wish to press charges against Mr. Gentry? I do, Nora said without hesitation. For theft, fraud, and attempted murder. Attempted murder, Marcus's voice rose. I never tried to murder you. You left me in a blizzard to die, Nora said, her voice shaking with anger. What would you call it? Marcus looked to Isaac, who had been standing silently in the corner. Who are you? Isaac Norris, Isaac said evenly. The man who found Miss Winters half frozen in the snow after you abandoned her. The man who is going to make sure you pay for what you did. This is ridiculous, Marcus sputtered. Commander Billings, this is all a misunderstanding. Nora is confused, traumatized from the storm. She does not know what she is saying. I know exactly what I am saying, Nora snapped. And I am not confused. You tried to steal from me and kill me, and now you are going to face the consequences. Billings called for guards, and Marcus was dragged out still protesting. Nora felt her knees go weak, and Isaac was immediately at her side, his hand on her elbow steadying her. You did well, he murmured. You faced him down. I want to see Sarah too, Nora said. I want to hear what she has to say for herself. Sarah was brought in next, and if Marcus had been defiant, Sarah was terrified. The moment she saw Nora, she burst into tears. I am so sorry, she sobbed. I am so sorry. It was Marcus's idea. He said you would not get hurt, that we would just leave you behind for a few hours and come back for you after we had the money. But then the storm got worse, and he said it was too late, that you must have found shelter, that you would be fine. But I almost was not fine, Nora said, her voice hard. I almost died, Sarah. Your cousin, your blood, almost froze to death because you helped Marcus steal from me. I know, Sarah wailed. I know, and I am sorry. I was desperate. Marcus promised he would marry me if I helped him, that we would split the money and go to California together. I believed him. Despite her anger, Nora felt a flash of pity. Sarah had been used just like Nora had, manipulated by a handsome face and false promises. Did he actually marry you? Nora asked, already knowing the answer. Sarah shook her head miserably. He said we would do it in Oregon, but I do not think he ever intended to. Probably not, Nora agreed. She turned to Billings. I want to press charges against Sarah as well, but I would ask for leniency given that she was also a victim of Marcus's manipulation. Billings nodded. I will note that in my report. She will still face charges, but her cooperation may help her case. Sarah was let out crying, and Nora felt suddenly exhausted. It was over. Marcus and Sarah were in custody, her money would be returned, and justice was being served. She should feel triumphant. Instead, she just felt tired and sad. Come on, Isaac said gently. Let's get you somewhere you can rest. Billings arranged for them to stay at the fort overnight in guest quarters, and a female officer brought Nora to a small but clean room. Nora sat on the bed and finally let herself cry, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She cried for the betrayal, for the fear, for the loss of the future she had thought she was building. She cried until she had no tears left, and then she washed her face and went to find Isaac. He was waiting in the common area, and his expression when he saw her was so full of concern and compassion that Nora felt her heart swell. Are you all right? He asked. I will be, Nora said. It hurts, but I will survive. I am good at surviving apparently. Isaac smiled slightly. Yes, you are. He stood up. Commander Billings said your bank draft will be reissued in your name within a week. He is also going to make sure Marcus and Sarah are transferred to Boys for trial. You will need to testify, but that will not be for a few months. Good. Nora took a deep breath. Isaac, I want to go back to Shoshone City. I do not want to go to Oregon anymore. I want to stay in Idaho near you and see if we can build something together." Isaac's eyes widened. "Are you sure? That is a big decision to make so quickly." "I am sure," Nora said. Oregon was Marcus's dream, not mine. Idaho is where I want to be. Idaho is where you are. Isaac crossed the space between them and took her hands in his. "Nora, I need to know this is what you really want, not just a reaction to everything that has happened. I need to know you are choosing this because it is right for you, not because you feel obligated to me. I am choosing this because you make me feel safe and seen and valued," Nora said. "Because when I think about the future, I see your ranch and your land and you. Because I think I could fall in love with you very easily if you gave me the chance." Isaac's breath caught. "I think I am already halfway there," he admitted. "I know it is fast. I know it is probably crazy. But Nora, from the moment I found you in that blizzard, I have not been able to stop thinking about you. About your strength, your courage, your heart. I do not believe in fate normally, but meeting you feels like something bigger than chance." "Then let's see where it goes," Nora said. "Let's go back to Shoshone City and take our time getting to know each other properly. No rushing, no pressure. Just two people seeing if they might have a future together." "I would like that," Isaac said softly. Then he leaned in and kissed her, gentle and careful, a promise more than a demand. Nora kissed him back, feeling something settle in her chest, something that felt like coming home. They stayed at Fort Hall one more day to finalize paperwork and ensure everything was in order. Then they rode back to Shoshone City together, taking their time, talking about everything and nothing. Nora learned that Isaac loved reading, that he had a small collection of books in his cabin that he had accumulated over the years. She told him about her father's store, about growing up surrounded by dry goods and listening to customers' stories. They discovered they both loved rainstorms and hated overly sweet desserts, and thought cows were funnier than they had any right to be. By the time they reached Shoshone City 3 days later, Nora felt like she knew Isaac in a way she had never known Marcus, despite months of courtship. Real knowing, based on honesty and genuine conversation, not the performance Marcus had put on to manipulate her. Margaret was delighted to see them both and immediately started fussing over Nora, demanding to know every detail. Nora told her the whole story while Isaac went to update Sheriff Coleman. That evening, the three of them had dinner together at the hotel, and Margaret raised her coffee cup in a toast. "To Nora Winters," she said, "who survived a blizzard, a betrayal, and came out stronger. And to Isaac Norris, for being the kind of man the world needs more of." "Hear, hear," Sheriff Coleman agreed, grinning. Nora felt her throat tighten with emotion. A week ago, she had been alone and betrayed, ready to die in the snow. Now she was surrounded by people who cared about her, with a future full of possibilities stretching out before her. And it was all because of the man sitting beside her, his gray eyes warm as they met hers. Over the next few weeks, Nora settled into life in Shoshone City. Her bank draft was reissued, and she deposited the money in the local bank, finally having full control over her finances again. She continued to stay at Margaret's hotel, but started looking at land for sale nearby. Isaac showed her around his ranch, and Nora fell in love with it immediately. The small cabin nestled in a valley with mountains rising in the distance, the creek that ran clear and cold through the property, the cattle grazing peacefully in the meadow. It was everything she had dreamed of and more. "What do you think?" Isaac asked as they stood on the porch of his cabin, looking out over his land. "I think it is beautiful," Nora said honestly. "I think you have built something remarkable here. It could be bigger," Isaac said carefully. "With 2 people working it, we could expand. Run more cattle, breed more horses, maybe plant some crops, build a bigger house." He turned to look at her. That is, if you were interested in being those two people. Nora's heart skipped. Are you asking me to be your partner, Isaac Norris? In business and in life, if you will have me, Isaac said. I know it has only been a few weeks. I know most people would say we should wait longer. But Nora, I know what I want, and I want you. I want to build this ranch with you, build a life with you. I want to wake up every morning and see your face. I want to face whatever challenges come our way together. He took her hands. I love you. I think I have loved you since I pulled you out of that snowdrift and you looked at me like I was your salvation. And if you will have me, I promise to spend every day for the rest of my life proving that you can trust me, that I will never betray you the way Marcus did. Tears streamed down Nora's face, but she was smiling. Yes, she said. Yes to all of it. I love you too, Isaac. You are the best man I have ever known, and I want to build a life with you more than anything. Isaac kissed her then, deep and passionate, and Nora felt the last walls around her heart crumble. This was what love was supposed to feel like. Safe and exciting at the same time, built on trust and respect and genuine affection. They were married a month later in a simple ceremony at the church in Shoshone City, with Margaret and Sheriff Coleman as witnesses. Nora wore a new dress she had bought with her reclaimed money, simple but beautiful. Isaac wore his best suit, looking handsome and nervous and absolutely perfect. They spoke their vows with tears in their eyes, promising to love and honor each other through whatever life brought. That night, Nora moved into Isaac's cabin, which was now their cabin. They spent the evening rearranging furniture and talking about plans for the future. Nora wanted to expand the cattle operation and maybe add some chickens. Isaac wanted to build a larger barn and eventually a bigger house, something that could accommodate a family. They dreamed together, planned together, and when they finally went to bed in the small room that was now theirs, Nora felt more at peace than she ever had in her life. The months that followed were filled with hard work and joy in equal measure. Nora threw herself into ranch life, learning everything she could about raising cattle and horses. She proved to have a natural talent for it, an instinct for handling animals that even Isaac admitted surpassed his own. Together, they grew the ranch, reinvesting Nora's money into more land and livestock. They hired 2 ranch hands to help with the work, young men who were grateful for steady employment and fair treatment. In the spring, Nora discovered she was pregnant. She told Isaac over breakfast one morning, and he had stared at her in wonder before sweeping her into his arms and spinning her around, laughing with pure joy. "We are going to be parents," he kept saying. "We are going to have a baby." Their son was born in late autumn, a healthy boy with Isaac's gray eyes and Nora's dark hair. They named him James after Isaac's father, and from the moment Nora held him, she understood a whole new dimension of love. Isaac was a devoted father, gentle and patient, often walking the floor with James at night to let Nora rest. Marcus and Sarah's trial happened when James was 3 months old. Nora had to travel to Boise to testify, and Isaac came with her, refusing to let her face it alone. She told the jury everything that had happened, and when the verdict came back guilty on all counts, she felt a sense of closure. Marcus was sentenced to 15 years in prison for theft and fraud. Sarah got 5 years but was released after 3 for good behavior. Nora never saw either of them again, and she was grateful for it. Life continued, each year bringing new challenges and new joys. The ranch prospered, growing into one of the most successful operations in the region. Nora and Isaac became pillars of the Shoshone City community, known for their fairness and generosity. They had 3 more children over the years, 2 daughters and another son, and their cabin was replaced by a large, beautiful house that rang with laughter and life. On their 10th anniversary, Isaac took Nora back to the cave where he had found her. It was summer now, the landscape green and lush, nothing like the frozen wasteland it had been. They stood at the entrance looking out at the view, and Isaac put his arm around Nora's waist. "Do you ever think about that night?" he asked. "About what might have happened if I had not found you?" "Sometimes," Nora admitted, "but I try not to dwell on it, because the truth is, you did find me. You saved me, and in doing so, you gave me the most wonderful life I could have imagined." "You saved me too," Isaac said quietly. "I was so lonely before you. I had my ranch and my work, but I did not have anyone to share it with. You brought joy and purpose and love into my life. You made everything better just by being in it." Nora turned to face him, reaching up to cup his bearded cheek. "We saved each other," she said. "That is what partners do." Isaac kissed her, tender and sweet, and Nora marveled at how much her life had changed in 10 years. She had come to Idaho running from nothing toward an uncertain future with a man who had only wanted to use her. She had been left to die in a blizzard by people she had trusted. But that terrible night had led her to Isaac, to real love, to a life richer and fuller than anything she had dreamed of. Years continued to pass, each one adding more memories to their story. They watched their children grow up strong and capable, James taking naturally to ranch work like his father, the girls showing their mother's business acumen. The youngest son, Michael, surprised everyone by declaring at age 15 that he wanted to be a doctor, and Nora and Isaac proudly sent him to medical school back east, their success making such dreams possible. Margaret Patterson became like a mother to Nora, and when the older woman passed away peacefully in her sleep at age 78, Nora wept like she had lost her own mother. Sheriff Coleman retired and was replaced by James when the young man turned 25, continuing the tradition of good men keeping Shoshone City safe. Idaho achieved statehood in 1890, and Nora and Isaac celebrated with the rest of the territory, proud to be part of this wild, beautiful place they called home. Their ranch continued to thrive, now run with the help of their children and grandchildren. Isaac's dark hair turned gray and then white, and Nora developed laugh lines around her eyes from decades of smiling. But their love never dimmed, never faded. If anything, it grew stronger with each passing year, deepened by shared experiences and mutual respect. On a warm summer evening in 1910, Nora and Isaac sat on the porch of their house watching the sun set over the mountains. They were in their 60s now, their bodies showing the wear of years of hard work, but their minds were still sharp and their hearts still full. James was running the ranch now, doing an excellent job of it, and their other children had built their own successful lives. They had 12 grandchildren and counting, the house always full of noise and laughter when the family gathered. "You have any regrets?" Isaac asked, taking Nora's hand in his, their fingers intertwining with the ease of long practice. Nora thought about it, really considered the question. "No," she said finally. "Not about the important things. I wish my father could have lived to see all this, to know his grandchildren. I wish I had not wasted time on Marcus. But regrets? No. Everything I went through led me here to you, to this life, and I would not change a moment of it, not even being left in the blizzard," Isaac asked gently. "Not even that," Nora said firmly. "Because if Marcus had not betrayed me, I never would have met you. I would have gone to Oregon and spent my life with a man who did not love me, building something hollow and false. Instead, I got to spend my life with the best man I have ever known, building something real and lasting." She squeezed his hand. "The blizzard was terrible, but it was also the best thing that ever happened to me because it brought me to you." Isaac raised her hand to his lips and kissed it. "I love you, Nora Norris." I have loved you from the moment I found you in the snow, and I will love you until my last breath." "And I love you," Nora said. "You are my trust, my partner, my home. Everything good in my life started the night you found me." They sat together in the gathering dusk, two people who had found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances and built a love that had lasted a lifetime. Behind them, the house they had built together glowed with lamplight. Before them, the land they had nurtured together stretched out to the horizon. And in their joined hands was the warmth and certainty of a love that had survived blizzards and betrayals and decades of life's challenges. Nora thought back to that terrified woman freezing in the snow, convinced she was going to die alone and forgotten. She wished she could go back and tell her younger self what was coming. Tell her that the betrayal would hurt but would not destroy her. Tell her that a man with gray eyes and a kind heart was coming to save her, and that he would not just save her life but transform it completely. But maybe it was better that younger Nora had not known. Maybe she had needed to face that darkness, that moment of absolute despair, to fully appreciate the light that followed. Maybe she had needed to learn the hard way that trust was precious and should only be given to those who truly deserved it. And maybe she had needed to lose everything to discover what truly mattered. As the stars began to appear overhead, Nora rested her head on Isaac's shoulder and smiled. Her journey had been hard, but it had been worth every difficult step. Because it had led her here to this moment, to this man, to this beautiful life they had created together. She had been left in the blizzard by those she trusted, and a cowboy had found her and become her trust. And from that terrible night had grown a love story for the ages, a testament to the power of kindness, the strength of real love, and the beauty of second chances. The Wild West had been harsh and unforgiving, full of danger and hardship. But it had also been a place where anything was possible, where a woman left to die could become a successful rancher, where a lonely cowboy could find his soulmate in a snowstorm. Nora and Isaac had taken the raw materials of their lives and forged something extraordinary from them. They had built not just a ranch but a legacy, not just a marriage but a partnership that had enriched everyone it touched. As they rose to go inside, Nora took one last look at the land spread out before them, at the empire they had built together through hard work and love and unwavering faith in each other. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, as every day did. But they would face those challenges together, as they always had. Because they were partners in every sense of the word, two people who had found each other in the most improbable way and chosen to build a life that would last forever. And as they walked into their house hand in hand, Nora knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be, with exactly the person she was meant to be with. The blizzard had tried to take everything from her. Instead, it had given her everything she had ever wanted and more than she had dared to dream. And for that, she would be grateful every single day for the rest of her life. The story of Nora Winters and Isaac Norris became a legend in Shoshone City, passed down through generations as an example of true love and resilience. Young couples would hear about the woman left in the blizzard and the cowboy who saved her, and they would be inspired by the knowledge that real love could survive anything. The ranch continued to prosper long after Nora and Isaac were gone, run by their descendants who honored their memory by upholding the values of hard work, honesty, and compassion that their ancestors had exemplified. But for Nora and Isaac themselves, their story was never about legend or legacy. It was simply about two people who had found each other against all odds and chosen to love each other every single day through whatever came. It was about trust earned and freely given, about partnership and respect, about building something lasting in a land that demanded strength and courage. It was about taking the worst moment of your life and transforming it into the beginning of something beautiful. And on that summer evening, sitting on their porch and watching the sunset, Nora and Isaac knew they had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. They had built a life worth living, a love worth celebrating, and a legacy worth leaving behind. And it had all started in a blizzard when a desperate woman had been left to die, and a good man had refused to let that happen. From that moment of darkness had come decades of light, and neither of them would have changed a single thing about the journey that had brought them to this perfect moment of peace and contentment and enduring love.